Hi there, and welcome back to another edition of ScaleUp Radio, the podcast inspired by the entrepreneurial scale-up system and designed to make navigating our scale-up journeys that little bit easier by learning from others' experiences. I'm Kevin Brent, and this week on the show, I'm joined by Yanika Cordina, the founder of Cordina Hair and the creation of the revolutionary flower curl. Discover how it took 3 years to launch, the Dragon's Den drama that brought credibility, and the surprising viral video that skyrocketed sales. Uncover the challenges of finding innovative manufacturing partners, the crucial role of patents, and the strategic sales channels, including a game-changing partnership for Yanika with Urban Outfitters. And Yanika shares her marketing mastery, achieving 100 million views on social media and the constant pursuit of optimizing global logistics. So make sure you don't miss any future episodes by subscribing to ScaleUp Radio wherever you like to listen to your podcast. And you can also nominate a guest for ScaleUp Radio if you know someone with an interesting scale-up story. And you can find out how in the show notes. So listen on for an inspiring tale of curls, challenges, and triumphs in the world of beauty entrepreneurship. Welcome to another episode of ScaleUp Radio. I'm delighted to be joined by Yanika Cordina, who is the founder of Cordina Hair. So Yanika, great to have you on board.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. So I think there's a clue in the name, but tell us a little bit about Cordina Hair and what you do, what you're all about.
Sure. I run an e-commerce haircare brand called Cordina Hair, where we manufacture, market, and sell our unique hair products. So I've invented a couple of hair tools. One is called the flower curl, and the other is the wafer bun. So these are two really unique hair tools that can only be found via our website and approved retailers that we've partnered with.
Brilliant. And you've got experience in patenting those, I believe, but I think they're both patented, aren't they? Is that right?
Yes, that's right. So something that I invested in from the moment I kind of came up with the ideas. I thought they were very unique. I couldn't find anything like it online. So I thought I have to find a way to protect my ideas. So I filed for multiple intellectual property, both in the UK and internationally. So yeah, that was quite an interesting way to start the business because I don't really have any knowledge on that. I never studied IP before, so I kind of went all in with it, and it's certainly paid off. Great.
So we'll explore that a little bit in a moment, I think, because that would be really useful for some of us listening. And I believe you've also just been successful at the Great British Entrepreneur Award, so congratulations for that.
Thank you very much. Yes, I was there.
Yeah, no, very, very well done. And I think I actually remember watching you were on Dragon's Den, weren't you? I think I remember the episode. That would have been the one with the curls, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. So the BBC actually approached me. They called me to consider going on the show. And at the time when I got the phone call, I just had my baby and he was like a month old. So I wasn't working in the business full time. I just kind of doing the absolute essential just to keep it going. But I decided to take up the opportunity and go on the show. So yeah, that was a very good experience.
Great. So we'll certainly look into that a little bit. So how was it about 5 years ago you set up the business? Is it something?
Yes, been trading for 5 years, but it actually took me 3 years to start trading. Okay. So 3 years prototyping, testing, filing for patents, trying to make it work, trying to manufacture it. So it took quite a long time to actually start selling the products.
Great. And what sort of stage have you got to now? Can you give us an idea of where you are with your scale-up journey?
Yeah, sure. So we've partnered with a few retailers. We've just got Urban Outfitters on board in the United States. So that's quite a big one on our portfolio. And we're also looking at introducing new products this year. So we've got one coming out in February and hopefully another one in March. So we're busy creating new products this year. I think that's where we're heading towards. It's been a while to kind of get into the designing and prototyping process because we've been focusing on our two products. But we're kind of growing the team and working on new projects at the moment.
And what's the marketplace like for the kind of products that you've brought to market?
As soon as I launched, the US market kind of grabbed onto it. So from the minute I launched, I had a lot of people from the United States ordering. As you know, the US is such a big market. So it kind of just happened. I wasn't even planning to like focus on the US market, but it kind of happened. And I think that's down to having a unique product, and you can't find it anywhere else. So the US market is quite big for us, and the UK, and then Europe, and then we sell worldwide. So after Europe is the rest of the world.
And what is it that makes it unique? You know, what do you stand for as Cordina Hair? You know, what are you all about? What makes you unique then?
So I feel like when I was designing and prototyping, I had this long list of things that I really wanted to solve. And I tackled each one as I knew kind of my frustrations were probably someone else's frustrations. So I really wanted to create a product that is easy, is quick, but most importantly, is comfortable to wear and to sleep in. So I tried endless products in the past and I just found them impossible to sleep in. And sleep is really important to me. So I really wanted to solve that. And I don't like hair tools sitting around my face. So I wanted to create a practical product that can be used day or night without having it get in the way. So I feel like all the long list that I created, I really wanted to tackle each one. And that's, I managed to create a product out of all those issues that I personally faced.
Very good. So what got you started? Take us back to the beginning. What made you want to set up a business and set up a business in hair? What got you there?
I feel like I always wanted to start a business, but it actually took me a long time to figure out what I'm passionate about and what I really wanted to do. So I was actively thinking of creating something, but I didn't know what. So in the meantime, I was kind of focusing on my career, and I wanted to climb the corporate ladder until I kind of reached a point where I couldn't go any further in my career. And at the time I was looking for a higher paid job as well, but there was not a lot to choose from. So I thought maybe I could get like a Saturday part-time job just to get some extra money and use that money towards hobbies. And I couldn't land a Saturday job. So that's when I decided to start my own little side business, which is completely different to what I'm doing now. This was a pet business. I was doing dog walking and pet sitting, but it was such an important business because it actually let me leave my full-time job.
Okay.
And also allowed me to in my free time, I was prototyping and trying to make the flower curl work, but also funded the initial stages of the flower curl. So it kind of took off from there. So it really helped me set up Cordina Hair.
Excellent. So you kind of had a little bit of a foundation in entrepreneurship to get you ready.
I mean, that was service-based business, so completely different. And I feel like after doing that, I'm like, I'm never going to do that ever again. But, you try different things and see what actually, what do you like? What do you enjoy doing? So that took a few years for me to get out of that business and do what I do now.
Okay. So take us through those early stages then, developing the product and prototyping and testing. Take us through some of the lessons that you learned from doing that.
Yeah, it's such a long process. I think people underestimate how long it actually takes. And I think the simpler the product looks, the more kind of almost complicated the whole prototyping is. So I feel like as soon as I launch, people think, oh, why didn't I think of that? It's so easy. But that took such a long time to actually get it to where it is now. Yeah. So, testing different fabrics, different sizes, different techniques. So the technique itself, I came up with it. So it's not just the product, but the technique of how you wrap the hair.
Okay.
And how to get it sit on your head. So all of it just takes a lot of testing and trying it on different people, on different hair textures. But it's quite a fun process, but you have to be really patient with it. I could have easily given up, within a year.
Yeah.
But I was really passionate about it, and I got a lot of feedback from employees at the time when I was turning up to work with a head full of curls.
Yeah.
So I knew I was onto something. So I just kind of went along with it, no matter how long it took. Money was an issue as well. So I didn't have a lot of money saved up towards the project. So I had to be really careful where each pound was being spent. So I feel like if you don't have a lot of money up front, you definitely find creative ways to make it work.
Yeah.
But it might take you longer to actually get there.
Yeah, I think that's right. So it took you three years of prototyping.
Yes.
Before you were able to start trading. No, and through that time you were funding yourself largely through the other business. So what lessons did you learn then about, or what things did you find out about the patenting process? And at what stage did you go down that route? Was that in those 3 years, or was that after you started trading?
It was actually quite quick. So I came up with the idea in November of 2015, and I filed for patents in 2016.
Okay.
So I think I heard about protecting an idea, but I didn't know exactly what it involves. So I remember taking an entire day off work and I printed a ton of paperwork from this website that talked about it a lot. So I printed all their documents and just studied the whole thing for the day. So I can get an idea of what's involved, the costs, and where to start, and what to do. So the first thing I did, obviously, look up online to see whether my idea was already out there. And I couldn't find anything. So I thought maybe it's a good time to speak with a patent attorney and get some feedback. So, that's what I did. And I kind of worked with a patent attorney as well to file the first patent.
And that's, so there's a few decisions that you made. And, the first one was that you clearly decided that you needed to patent early on. Yeah.
So it was really early because I felt there's a priority date, they call it. So when you file it, the date you file it is really important, because if someone files it a day before you, they own that priority date. So I wanted to just file it as soon as I could, obviously knowing what the product is actually going to look like. And once I've made that decision, I went ahead with the patent filing. I did that very quickly. And you mentioned that you've got some UK, but also you've gone worldwide patents with it. Was that all together, or did you do that kind of at separate? It was a gradual thing. Yeah. So first you go, usually you go for a UK patent, and then you have this priority date, and then you go from UK to, they call it the PCT application, which means it covers you worldwide in inverted commas for a certain amount of time. And basically the idea of it is that you are trading, you're selling your products, and within that timeline, you get an idea of where your interest is coming from. And after that time is up, you choose which countries you want to further protect your idea.
Okay.
So I did go ahead with that PCT application. And then from there, I filed for international patents after that.
Great. And all the while you've got a patent attorney that's working with you, costing you money.
Yeah, very expensive.
And did you do all that from your own funds from the other business?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I feel like in the beginning, I worked with a patent attorney that had their own like big company, and it was very, very expensive. And I feel like I had to change that strategy because I could not afford it. But they did do my UK patent. And then I decided to work alongside a patent attorney that is a freelance person, which works out a lot cheaper. I feel like that's like what my secret to it, or, trying to find a way to reduce the cost. It's still expensive, don't get me wrong, but it's cheaper.
Yeah.
So usually freelance patent attorneys, they've worked with big companies, or they are still working with big companies, but they also do it on the side, which is quite interesting. And I decided to do that, and I think that saved me quite a bit of money. But the actual filing of patents and, that is quite costly. So it's something that I've invested in from the beginning, and the pet business helped fund some of it. I did take a loan as well in the beginning, so to help with all these expenses.
Yeah. And you hinted that it had definitely been worthwhile doing that. So can you tell us anything about that? What's it done for you having those patents?
Yeah, I mean, at the minute, where anything like we see some Chinese companies usually copying products, we're able to take them down quite quickly. So it just makes the product, having these patents behind me makes it so much easier to protect the products and the company, and just makes us stand out more. So, and yeah, we're able to take them down. But also we've been able to win awards as well, because we have that intellectual property behind us. I feel like me going in the show, what helped is actually having my intellectual property behind me. I feel like investors are interested in that. There's value in having IP behind you.
Yeah, good. So fast forward, we get to sort of 3 years ish in that journey, and you're ready then to essentially start trading. So take us through some of those, some of the milestones and next steps that happen then.
I think one of my biggest kind of challenge that I had was to get customer proof, because nobody's tried this product before. I've come up with a new way that no one's ever done before. So for me, getting customer proof was really important to me. I think the milestones, obviously having Dragon's Den like approaching me, and I really needed that validation, like external validation on my products. So when I walked out with a deal from Dragon's Den, that was definitely, I've got some, confirmation that what I'm doing is actually fine, is grabbing attention. So that was definitely my first milestone. And then 3 months after the episode aired, one of our videos went viral, and that we had a major sellout. And after that, it's just social media really escalated our growth. Social media is a big part of our business and where the customers come from.
Yeah, and I'd like to get into that a little bit as well. So before you went on Dragon's Den, were you already trading at that point? Had you got sales behind you? Or
Yes, I did. I was trading. I did have some sales behind me, but I was still trying to get that customer proof.
Yeah.
So Yeah, so I was trying to get customer proof, but also I think one thing that kind of happened in the beginning, I landed a meeting with this big hair care brand. And because I was looking into licensing my ideas in the beginning,
Okay.
because I could not afford manufacturing. And every time I looked it up on the internet, they all kind of seem to say go with licensing because it's a much safer route, it's a much cheaper route. And I was trying to see what I could get. So I landed at this meeting with a big hair care brand. And that was for me realizing actually this is grabbing attention. I'm getting some sort of confirmation here. So, but that deal, after like lots of negotiations, it actually fell through. And that's what made me go into manufacturing myself. I just thought, I don't need anyone else. I'm just going to try and do it myself from that meeting.
Okay. So quite a big learning curve there. And then, so yeah, what about then setting up a manufacturing? How did you go about that?
I do think that manufacturing is one of the hardest things I've ever done. It's very complex. Like you're dealing with lots of suppliers, and logistics. Logistics is really complicated as well. So I'm definitely learning as I go along. And the whole setup of manufacturing is not easy. And I think as well, having a product, you need to make sure that you can manufacture it efficiently. Otherwise, it's going to be too costly to make. So I feel like it took 3 years to launch because that was quite an intense process to actually make a product that is efficient to manufacture. And you can get those like the bulk, the volume through manufacturing. You're dealing with suppliers all the time, and the logistics, if you're ordering from abroad, there's lots of logistics. And we try to stick with UK suppliers as much as we can. One, to keep it local, and two, to avoid all the logistics as well that come along with, dealing with international suppliers.
So where do you get it? Where do you manufacture now? Where do you get it made?
So we make it in the UK. We have lots of suppliers everywhere. So some international, some in the UK. But everything we make it here, and it comes out of our warehouse from the UK.
And what did you learn then about starting those conversations with manufacturers? Because it sounds like you're starting from a blank piece of paper almost. So how if somebody else is listening to this, thinking about, I've got a product, I want to start getting it made. What were some of the things you learned?
I think having a complex product that's never been done before, it can prove a little bit difficult to get into manufacturing, because usually you want to find a factory that is open to innovation. And sometimes that's quite hard to find, because who wants to take a difficult new product that's never been done before? Factories want to do something easy and not complicated. So in my case, it was a mission to actually find the right factory to help us make it, a reality. But I think in my case, the product is fabric based. So I think working with someone that can create like patterns for you, and they call it like a tech pack. So you can present a tech pack to the factory. It makes it so much easier for that factory to start the prototyping or sampling process. You want to make it as easy as possible for the factory to want to work with you. I think if you present something and you're not quite sure yourself how to make it, and you're relying on someone else to figure that out for you, it's not going to go very well for you. You want to figure it out first and almost hand it over to them. So it'd be a lot easier to get a yes from a factory.
And what were some of the other things that maybe you found difficult? Because I imagine, what about things like finding someone that could produce in the volumes that you wanted? Because initially you hadn't really got large volume sales to back up a big production run. How did you go about those kind of things in the early stages?
So in the beginning, we had a team of home-based seamstresses in the UK, and they were working from home, making them in bulk, but it wasn't enough.
Yeah.
And I think I had that realization when we went viral and all our stock was sold within like minutes. Yeah. And we oversold. It was quite a stressful experience. We oversold products. And it how long it's going to take you to have X amount of products. And that was going to take a long time to actually make up. So that's when we transitioned from having home-based seamstresses to actually delegating it to a factory. So I think that helped, though, having like the home-based seamstresses already, like having the process already in place, and then moving that process to a wider, like bigger scale.
Great. And how many people have you got working with you? You're saying we? What's the business look like?
So we're a small team. We're only 4 people, but hopefully this year we're looking to kind of grow our team further. I think having new products later this year, that should help like grow our team a bit more. But yeah, we're only a team of 4.
And at what point did you start taking on other people?
So I did it on my own for quite some time until I reached burnout, and I'm like, this is it now. I need help. I think when I started going viral online, I was just really struggling to do it all. And I just needed some help in the stockroom, especially like packing products, putting products together, and just fulfilling orders is a full-time job. Yeah. Doing just that. So I got someone to help in the stockroom pretty quick, actually. And that she's still working for me today. So it's been a good few years. Great. But yeah, I think delegating tasks is crucial to actually growing your business. I think if you remain small, you kind of, the business stays small. So I think it's important that if you delegate some of these tasks, it will free up your time to actually focus on growing the business more.
Yes, and how have you made sure? Because it's you've got. I would imagine cash flow is quite a challenge for you, because you've got to pay for production. You've got different, and we'll explore perhaps in a minute. You've got different channels that you're probably selling through. How have you managed the financial aspects of the business?
I feel like from the beginning, as soon as the revenue comes in, I was always reinvesting it into the business. So I tend to have like different savings accounts for different roles. Like at the minute, I could be saving for a role that I haven't got someone in yet, okay. But I tend to save it up front, and then plan that role. And then delegate that role. Like, I feel like I have to do it first and then delegate it, so I know exactly what's being delegated. But I do tend to reinvest the money and put it back into the business. That's normally what I do with getting new people on board, and just make sure that I have enough money to cover the role for, at least 6 months. Because in terms of retail, it goes up and down. You just one day you're going viral, the next is quiet. You want to make sure you're covering yourself for a good few months.
Yeah. So I like that idea. So essentially, you're recognizing ahead that you need a new role. You're making the business essentially pay for that role before you've got somebody on board. So when you do get that person on board, A, you've got a buffer of reserve to pay them, but B, you know the business can afford to pay them because you've been doing that for a few months beforehand. So nice way of looking at it. And what about things like pricing? I would imagine pricing was a big complex area for you at the beginning as to how to set the pricing.
Yeah, it was interesting because when I had that meeting with that big company, they gave me a retail price that I could never meet. I can't even meet it now. Right. And it was never going to work. So I kind of set up my own retail price, obviously looking at the manufacturing price, how much it's going to cost. But I've gradually increased the price as I went along. And I think every time I was a bit worried of raising the pricing, I went ahead with it anyway, and it worked out. I think the pricing needs to make sense. If it's too expensive, and it doesn't meet whatever you're selling, it's not going to work. But also the quality of the products, what are the benefits, why are you selling it at that retail price? But also it's very unique, so you can't find it anywhere else. And that makes the product stand out a bit more. So it's coated in satin fabric as well, so there's no plastic, it's not hard. There's a lot that went into the actual manufacturing of it, and it's not a cheap product to manufacture, so the retail price reflects that. But that took lots of steps, and you're constantly reviewing as well, trying to get the manufacturing price down. I think that's something that you have to constantly review and see where you can cut costs down, because over the years the suppliers might put the pricing up, or you can order it more in bulk, maybe up your quantity so you can get a better cost. But that takes time as well, because you have to save up money up front for stock you haven't sold yet. So it can be quite a tricky one with product-based businesses, because you're constantly saving up front for stock that you actually haven't sold yet.
Yeah, and you mentioned as well earlier on that you try and source most of it through the UK, but there's some international side. And so since you've been trading, we've gone through Brexit, we've gone through COVID, and we've now got various other problems going on. So how have those things? How have you managed to navigate your way through some of those stormy waters?
I feel logistics is just this big, complex subject. When COVID happened, the logistics pricing went really high, and lots of delays, constant delays. So we had a lot of hurdles to jump. But COVID actually, worked well for us at the same time, because people were at home scrolling on their phone, and more people were purchasing online. So a lot of our content was reaching a lot of people during COVID. So in terms of sales, it was an interesting time for us to see growth. But it was also sad to see businesses closing during that time. So it was interesting.
Yeah. So what channels do you sell through then? You're selling direct by the sounds of it through your website, and you've got some retailers you mentioned before. So how do your different channels work for you?
Yeah, so we sell direct via our site, and we sell worldwide, which is quite important to us, because if we sold just the UK, we're kind of leaving out lots of markets. So we sell worldwide via our site, and then we have partnerships with retailers in the UK. We have one in the Netherlands, in the United States, and we've partnered with a few boutiques as well in the UK and in the USA. And we have a couple of salons. So I think wholesale a strategy is definitely something that we're working on. And Urban Outfitters in the United States is a big one for us. So the US, because it's such a big market, they do order much bigger quantities. So it's quite an interesting one to gonna follow. But yeah, so mainly retailers and direct from our website.
Great. And can you give us a feel for sort of what proportion is direct and what proportion is through?
I mean, mainly through our site, but Urban Outfitters is quite new to us. But that should, the retailers, they tend to place monthly orders, which is nice to get that recurring, and they order in bulk. So yeah, I mean, mainly through our website, the kind of direct. Also, your revenue is higher through the website because you're selling like a wholesale price to the retailers. So it's lower margin, but you get that bulk order all in one go, and it's good for reputation as well.
Great, yeah. And what advice would you give to people that are looking to deal with retailers and go that route? What have you learned from doing that?
I think retailers rely on the vendor to actually promote the products a lot. So it's really interesting to see that, because they do rely on me to promote them and to direct my customers to the retailers. So it takes up a lot of effort for me to direct my customers elsewhere. But they do rely on you a lot heavily, like to promote them, and they do mention it themselves as well. So they rely on you to actually get those sales.
Okay, good. So we've skirted around a couple of times in terms of marketing and social media, and so what works for you? What have you've certainly had a couple of videos that you said have gone viral. So what's your magic sauce for marketing?
Well, we've reached over 100 million views on social media, which is such a big number. That's a lot of people.
And is that TikTok? Is there any particular?
It's TikTok and Instagram. Right. So we've reached over 100 million. And I do think that having something unique, it does make us stand out. So I tend to not follow trends. And I think creating our own trends sounds more enticing to me. I tend to do things a bit differently. I don't follow what everyone else is following. So I think if you want to stand out, you want to do things differently and just not follow the herd. And that's worked for us from the beginning. And our content, sometimes it reaches millions of people, sometimes it doesn't. So you have to constantly review your content and your strategy and see where you can adjust and what you can introduce or test. It's all about testing. I think if something was working a year ago, it might not work anymore. So you have to constantly look at your content, see what's happening, and adjust and try and find ways to be creative around it and trying to be a bit different. And
what was just for pure interest, the couple that really gone viral? What was it about them? What were they? What do you think made them go viral? And
it's because I look at my videos sometimes. I'm like, what made this one gain like 8 million views? Yeah. Or what made this video? Why did it bring so many orders? Because sometimes a video might go viral and doesn't bring much income. Right. So, we have videos, for example, me printing labels. And if it's on a really busy day, the label machine will just go crazy. And that we have a few that reached 2 million views. And that doesn't necessarily result in sales. Yeah. But it's good for engagement. So you want to look at your content and okay, what's good for engagement? and what's good to actually bring income in. Some of the videos that brought lots of income, it's a combination of things. I feel like the list is quite long. Like, what's the background? What are you wearing? What's the angle you're at? What am I saying in a text? Am I saying something controversial, or am I saying something, a little bit, I don't know, weird? Something that gets people talking. Sometimes I say, like, it took me 3 years to launch, and people love to debate on it and create a bit of drama. I think it just depends. Like, a lot of things go into a video that makes it go viral. Right. And sometimes posting the same video at a different time and it won't reach millions of views. So what time are you posting? Who are your audience? What time does your audience usually go on the app? A lot goes into why a video goes viral.
So constant experimentation and changing, and lots of reviewing what's working, what's not working, trying to find the next one. Yeah. Okay. Very good. And we only talked very briefly about it, but what was the experience on Dragon's Den like?
Dragon's Den was quite interesting. I feel like when I came out of the show, a lot of press and media came out of it, which was really good. But in going on the show, it just gave me that validation I needed, that, I'm onto something here. They saw something in my product. And walking out with a deal was definitely, it's like, oh my gosh, someone actually invested in the business. And I walked out with a deal. I felt like I needed that validation, because it's just a different product that's never been done before, and no one's used that technique before. So it was good to finally have like a serial entrepreneur, on accepting the idea and just seeing something in it.
Good. And so that was Sarah Davies, wasn't it? I think did that go anywhere at the end of the day afterwards, or?
So walked out with a deal with Sarah Davies, and then after the show we went through lots of due diligence. And as I said, from the beginning, we have quite a big US market. Eventually the deal fell through because we want to focus on the US market, and Sarah Davies is is based more in the UK market. So it was just not going to make any sense to actually go through with the deal. So the deal never happened.
And that's television, isn't it? And showbiz, whatever. I think there's a relatively small proportion of deals that happen on the Den that don't, that actually do go forwards into a full investment. There's only a relatively small proportion.
It was interesting because after being on the show, the percentage of people that actually get the investment is very, very low. I think a lot of the deals do fall through and they don't happen. But it's good to get your brand out there. And a lot of good press came out of it. It's a tricky one, though, because, you can go on the show and you might end up with really bad press. But it's a risk that I was willing to take. And I got good press out of it. So I think it worked out.
Yes, it sounds like it was fairly pivotal at that stage in your journey, and kind of accelerated the growth curve for you quite significantly.
Yes, I think, though, the video that went viral after the show had nothing to do with Dragon's Den.
Oh, right. Okay.
So I think being on Dragon's Den did not equate to sales. It just, now people in my videos, they do comments like, oh, I saw this on Dragon's Den. And it does help. I think it, gives you that, got a bit of profile and, but I don't think being on Dragon's Den, what equated the sales, it's our actual content, our videos that made us, go viral and sell out.
Yeah, great. So what do you love most about what you do? You clearly love it. What is it you love most?
Well, I do enjoy creating new products, which I haven't done in a while. So I've been busy, hiring people, training people, and just putting systems in place. I quite like to be organized as well. So I enjoy organizing the business, but I do like creating new products, the prototyping stage, and just creating something different. I really enjoy that. So this year I'm really focusing on creating new products and bring something different.
Super. Well, definitely good luck with that. And what frustrates you? What sort of things wind you up, or you find particularly challenging?
I think logistics frustrates me quite a bit. So this is one of the reasons why I want to find more UK suppliers, just to avoid dealing with logistics. It can be quite frustrating, like things might go missing, dealing with customs, paying big chunks of invoices to customs.
Yeah.
And if they get it wrong, you still have to pay it. And then you might need to claim it back later. But it's such a complex subject. It's interesting. And, I've learned a lot. But I try to find UK suppliers as much as I can. It's just one of those things, but sometimes you can't get away from it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, where do you want to be in 5 years, and what's the legacy that you want to leave with Cordina Hair?
Well, I would hope to see Cordina Hair like branching into different sectors. So we do have a new hair oil coming out this year. So we're going to branch out into cosmetics.
Okay.
And we've got other products that I'm hoping to launch later this year. So it's different sectors under the Cordina brand, and expand on our hairline as well. So definitely new products, new projects, and new kind of sectors under the Cordina brand.
Very good, very good. Well, it's been absolutely fascinating talking with you, Yanika. So, are you all right for a couple of sort of quick fire questions before we close?
Of course.
If you could go back to your younger self, what advice would you give yourself?
I think be patient with like the process of it all. I feel like I was patient, but I was quite frustrated when I was trying to set up a business or like thinking about setting up a business, but I just lacked I didn't know what I was passionate about. And that was such a frustrating stage for me. I was trying to find a way to find something that I was good at, I was passionate about, and I was just really struggling to find my passion. And I think a lot of people find themselves in that situation, especially when you like finish school and you don't know really what you want to do. And I think being patient in that time of my life, and just going along with it. I think it's good to get work experience and just try different things. That's how you find your passion, by trying different things. And I feel like I've done that, but with some frustration mixed in. I was trying to find something that I was really good at and I couldn't find it. And it took me a long time to launch my business. I was in my mid-20s, maybe 25. Can't remember exactly now, but I was not considered a young entrepreneur. I think late 20s actually, not mid-20s. So it took me a while to find what I really wanted to do.
Yeah, good. And you learnt a lot on the go, clearly. Were there any resources that you turned to that helped you, whether they be books or podcasts or courses, anything that you would point other people in the direction of?
I think in the beginning, I remember this very clearly. When I was walking dogs in my pet business, I was constantly listening to podcasts, like business podcasts.
Yeah.
And I learned so much through podcasts. I would spend the entire day walking dogs and visiting cats, and I would be listening to podcasts the entire time. So that was, I think, really important to me, like gaining that knowledge in the beginning, because I didn't have any business knowledge. And I gained a lot of knowledge through podcasts. The other thing, obviously, Google. I Googled everything. If you're not sure, just ask Uncle Google and you'll get some sort of answer. With the IP, intellectual property, again, like I downloaded a ton of free information. There's a lot of information out there, and you just have to take an interest, and read and learn. There's a lot, like, I feel like we live in a world where there's so much information, like YouTube, there's a lot of free content there. Yeah, so I think I did like podcasts, looking at the internet and YouTube, my main three sources.
Good. And what particular apps or bits of software do you find very useful in for you and what you do?
I'm very much of what do you call it? Microsoft 365.
Okay, yep.
I don't really use apps. I feel like I just want to simplify it as much as possible by using like the Word Excel to do things. So this year, as I mentioned before, the podcast started like project management and quarters. I'm using Excel to do that. I don't tend to use apps. Maybe I should. I don't know.
Okay. No,
do you have any apps that you would recommend?
Oh, well, thought you were going to say, thought you were going to sort of almost just go back to TikTok and say, oh, brilliant TikTok.
Well, yeah, that's a social media apps.
And do you use any scheduling apps or for that, or is it? Yeah.
So I use Later sometimes to schedule social media apps. Sorry, social media posts. But I don't use it as much as I should, probably. I think because it's so easy to edit videos on your phone and then post it whilst you're on your phone.
Yeah.
I think I'm trying to get away from that, though. This year, I'm going to try and edit more on my computer, do them in bulk, and upload it onto Later so you can see all the scheduled content coming up. Brilliant. I think that's a good way to manage your content. What days are going out? If you're missing a day, you can see it in the calendar. So that's definitely something that I need to improve on.
Okay, very good. And who would you say has had the most influence on you as a business leader?
Oh, it's a good question. I feel like I follow a lot of businesses. I don't have a specific one in mind, but I follow a lot of entrepreneurs, and it's quite interesting to see like what everyone else is doing, but also not put myself in a position where I'm comparing myself. I think we tend to compare ourselves a lot with other entrepreneurs, and that's definitely something that I don't want to be doing, because what takes someone like a year, it might take me 5 years to, achieve what they've achieved. We're all kind of different on a different level. So I try not to compare what I'm doing with what other people are doing. But it's good to follow entrepreneurs and kind of learn from them. There's always like something that's happening behind the scenes, and it's quite interesting to see what others are doing.
Yeah, and you referred to the podcast that you listened to as well before, and
so. I would say, actually, I'll give you a name, Amy Porterfield. I'm not sure if you've heard of her. She's like a marketing kind of guru. She's really good. So I listened to her most of the time when I was walking dogs.
Excellent. So Amy Porterfield, brilliant. We'll put that in the show notes. So Yanika, it's been absolutely fascinating. Love your journey so far. Wish you all the best with your future scale up journey. If people would like to get hold of you or find out more about Cordina Hair, what's the best way for them to do that?
Thanks so much, Kevin. Yes, they can come and visit our website. It's cordinahair.co.uk, or they can find us on social media under Cordina Hair.
Brilliant. Yanika, thank you very much indeed for being my guest on ScaleUp Radio today.
Thank you, Kevin.
I hope you enjoyed that discussion, and if you're building and scaling your own business, you might well be interested in our book, The Entrepreneurial Scale-Up System. And it's exactly what it says on the tin. It's a practical handbook around scaling a business in a structured way. And you can order a copy on all your favorite online retailers, including an audio version, or you can find it and other supporting resources on our website, www.esusgroup.co.uk. That's esusgroup.co.uk, which is esusgroup.co.uk.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.